like makeup? So my boyfriend does my taxes for me, and he was going through all of my statements, and he told me that I need to stop going to Sephora. And I almost broke up with him, but then I looked at my statements and realized, like, okay, bitch, maybe you don't need 5 different foundations that are each worth $24. I have this like love-hate relationship with makeup because like I like to wear it, but I don't really like to take it off. Like, I go out, I dance, I have a good time, and then I go home and pass out. And I wake up in the morning and I'm like, oh yeah. So because I'm somebody who falls asleep all the time in their makeup, Youthforia was actually a pretty intriguing concept to me. They came on Shark Tank and they advertised it as makeup that you can fall asleep in. But early on, they were criticized for not really being as inclusive as they could be.
So Youthforia is a smaller brand. They went on Shark Tank, they're known for their changing colors, and recently they are releasing a serum foundation. Their foundation release was this. Only 15 shades. And people are very frustrated because the dispersion of the shades was not inclusive.
But they recently got into a little bit of controversy after they released the darkest shade ever. And by the darkest shade ever, I mean they quite literally released black face paint. But before we get into that, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Hi, my name is katblaque, and I like to think that I make content for introspective hot people. And if you're here, I'll assume that's you. And if you're new here, you know exactly what to do if this video pleases you. There's been a lot of discourse and conversation about this, and I sort of just wanted to share my thoughts with you. I've been doing these like really long form, like very well researched videos on here for a bit, and I love making video essays, but I also miss just talking to you guys the way that I used to. And I just wanted to share my thoughts with you about this because there have been some things that have happened since. And I have a general thought about this that I feel like more people need to hear when it comes to finding brands that are truly inclusive. So we were all first introduced to Youthforia on Shark Tank, and they seemed pretty impressed, and it obviously went into development, and they had their first release of foundation shades. But people were really disappointed because the shade range was lacking, right? Now, I'm the sort of person who typically when I go to the store, I can find my shade. You know that like orangey shade that's in like every foundation range? That's typically my color. That is typically the color that works for me. But I know that if I were darker skinned, I would be hard pressed to find something that actually matched my skin tone. There are so many times where I am the darkest shade in a foundation range. And I know that for darker skinned people who wear makeup, it's gotta be really frustrating to feel like you can't find a shade that actually matches you. And I would say the same for people who are very light-skinned who still can't find a shade that can't quite match them. See, most of us, when we have foundations, they have undertones, right? Some of us are cool, some of us are warm, some of us are neutral. I thought for the longest time that I had a warmer skin tone, and I guess I kind of do, but I'm more recently discovering that I'm actually a neutral. And so I've been using that to guide me as I pick out my foundation ranges. But long story short, even though black people are black, they're not quite literally black, right? They're also other things. There's lots of undertones. Even the darkest skinned person has undertones. But when Youthforia came back with a new release of foundation, they said that they were going to get the darkest shade in the world. And by darkest shade, they definitely just meant black. And you know, I saw so many different TikTok videos about this at the time. There were a lot of people who were criticizing this brand for releasing what is quite literally just black face paint.
This is black face paint. This is the darkest shade of the Youthforia foundation. A few months ago, I tried the darkest shade of the Youthforia foundation. This is what it looked like on me. I'm gonna apply some of the foundation on this side of my face so you guys can see. Let's just go ahead and try to blend this out, you guys. Enough. Who is that color?
There's a cosmetic chemist on TikTok who looked into this and discovered that there's only one pigment in this foundation.
Which side of my face is the black face paint or the Youthforia foundation? T, you can't tell.
I wanted y'all to see something first before folks start gaslighting her and other black creators in the comments. So this is one of Youthforia's lightest foundations. If you look here at the bottom of the ingredient list, you'll notice 3 different colors. Stay with me now. The CI stands for color index, and it basically represents titanium white, red, and yellow iron oxides. Pretty much the only colors you need to make a lighter shade of foundation. But then if we look at their darkest shade, the ingredient list tells a different story. Here there's only one pigment, CI77499, which is just black iron oxide. No other colorants. This foundation literally only has pure black pigment. Here's a close-up if you missed it the first time. And before folks say, oh, maybe it's meant as a mixing pigment, that makes no sense. Anyone who's ever taken an art class will tell you that black is a terrible pigment to mix with, because it just makes things gray and muddy. And skin tones typically have some combination of eumelanin and pheomelanin. The pheomelanin is where we get the red and yellow undertones. And this problem is so avoidable. She literally could have used NARS or Fenty foundation shades as a benchmark. This brand does not care about us.
And you know, one of the most annoying things about this when this happened is that there were people who were arguing that like some people have this skin tone. And I know these people have like never seen a dark skinned black person before, because even though, yeah, there are some like very, very dark skinned people who, you know, can look like their skin might be black, it's not actually black, right? And I honestly think that some people who feel this way innocently just are used to seeing like really editorial photo shoots with models with very dark skin who are often painted black, right? Or they're edited for their skin to be quite literally black, but no one naturally has that skin tone, even the darkest skinned black person. And there were some people who were defending them, saying that like, this was a color that could be used to mix into other colors to darken the shade so that everyone could find their shade. And you know, here's the thing about that. It's stupid. It's stupid. It's just not sensical. It's completely nonsensical. If you're an artist like I am, I often forget that I am an artist. I know y'all sometimes forget that as well. You know that when you mix black into another color, it may make it darker in a way, but really what it's doing is lowering its saturation, right? It's desaturating the color. It's not actually like making it darker in the way that you would want for it to be. Usually if you want something to be darker, you're gonna mix in a little bit of like blues and such. You're gonna, you know, mix in some reds and some, you know, to different ratios and such. And that's how you're gonna actually make it darker. You're not going to mix in black, right? That's why your art teacher always tells you not to mix with black. Look, here's the thing, you guys. I think at a certain point, we have to take a hint, right? If a company isn't creating something in my skin tone, they're very clearly not interested in having me as a customer. And I think at a certain point in the timeline, it made a lot of sense for us to argue for more. It made a lot of sense for us to say, hey, you know, please give us this, give us that, because it's something that we need and we really want to support the... But at the end of the day, there are too many companies out there who have very inclusive ranges, and we don't need to beg for them to make it in our shade. We don't need to beg for them to make it in our size. Should they? Yeah, totally. In fact, I don't want to harsh anybody's party here, but obviously for a lot of these companies, they are inclusive because it means they can make more money. But, you know, that's, girl, you know, capitalism, blah, 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 corruption, da-da-da-da, you know, ethical consumption, yada, yada. There was some footage that came out when they were, I guess, developing the product and they were trying to find shade models. And they ran around this mall in Dubai and found some dark-skinned men and then tested the foundation out on them. And as you see in those clips, the foundation shade does not match. And I have to wonder if they just put this in the lineup to make people who are on the other side of the lineup, who would be otherwise turned off by the lack of inclusivity, interested in supporting the brand because of the color range, right? Because it's clear to me that for some companies, the diversity is the sales point, right? When Rihanna's Fenty came out, right? That was the big thing. Finally, we have a huge range of foundation colors that work for everyone, right? Like pretty much everybody can find their skin tone in the Fenty range. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of that foundation formula, but it was cool to actually go in there and find a color that quite literally melted into my skin. And I know that there is a customer base who does not want to support companies that are not inclusive. So I have to wonder if they put that there, not because they wanted to actually include dark-skinned people, but because they know that inclusivity is a sales point for some people. And you know, here's the thing, like, I think inclusivity is great. obviously. But I know that for a lot of companies, inclusivity, is a sales point, right? And what I hate about that is the disingenuous nature of it. Because putting black foundation in your shade range tells me that you have a very shallow understanding of the way that skin tone works, right? Because it's one of two things. Either you knew that this was not a color that worked for everyone and you said, fuck you, we're gonna put this in there to shut you up. Or you quite literally think that people who have dark skin are quite literally black. And if that is how you feel, why exactly are you in this industry? Why exactly are you in this business? Because that's clearly not the way that skin works, right?
How did you invent this, Fiona?
So when I started the business, I had no experience in beauty.
I used to really think that when people did stuff like this, they just didn't know what they were doing, right? They just didn't really understand that they were doing something like this. But when I look at this, I actually tend to think that it was more malicious than people tend to give it credit for. Now, they did apologize, and in this apology, they said that they were gonna hire some people. They said they were gonna hire one person for a DEI position, somebody who is particularly invested in all of the things that people criticize them for. And for me, that was also just kind of a middle finger as well, right? They're going to hire one person and they're going to be responsible for all of these things within the company. And I know that their team is still quite small, but why is it that you want to just hire one person for this, right? Also, why is it that you developed this without testing it on people, right? Now, a lot of people were upset by this. I believe it's been pulled from stories. When I went to go on Sephora to look at it, it's gone, right? They don't even have it anymore. But I think it's just such a good example of companies who don't care, right? And I don't know if y'all feel this way, but I'm tired of begging. I'm real tired of begging. I frankly, I just don't. If it's not for me, it's not for me. Quiet as it's kept, I have enough makeup. Quiet as it's kept, I really don't need more. Quiet as it's kept, I think I've probably found the collection of foundations in my life that work, and I probably should stop buying new ones, if we're being honest. Honestly, my favorite foundation is the Serum Foundation by L'Oreal. That's what I'm wearing right now. They've got a great shade range. I love them, and there is better shit in the drugstore. And people tell me that my skin is pretty good, and I fall asleep in my makeup all the time, so, maybe there's something to it. Long story short, if they don't make it for us, it's not for us. And I think there are just better places to spend your money, right? I love Juvia's Place. Juvia's Place is one of my favorite makeup companies. They are Black owned. Their products are good. Their products are affordable. They now have a range of complexion products, and they are made with us in mind, right? The fact that they actually took a black foundation and put it to market is such a bold fuck you, right? It is a middle finger in your face telling you to go shove it, right? There's no way in hell they didn't understand what they were doing. And if Youthforia truly doesn't want us as their customers, I think we got to take the hint. Anyway, I just wanted to share my thoughts about this with you guys. I find this to be such a funny situation. Like I said, I would just prefer if these companies were honest. Just have a limited shade range and say, we are a brown paper bag type company. We don't make complexion products for you darkies. If somebody wants to put out a range of whites only foundations, I think they should be able to do that. And I also think that they deserve all of the ire for deliberately excluding a customer base. At the end of the day, it's all capitalism. They don't really give a fuck about anyone other than, the people at the top who make the money. But still, I'm going to spend my money for people who are making products for me in mind. Simple as that. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about. I am really curious what you guys have to say about this. Don't forget to check out my website, blackinthecity.com. I've been writing a lot of stuff on there lately. That is basically my hub where I'm going to be writing and sharing my thoughts more frequently. I've had some really upsetting shit recently happened in my life, and that's what I've been talking about on there. So if you're curious, go check that out. Also, check out my Patreon. Patreon is where I share all of my private life stuff. I kind of like to keep it privately on there as opposed to talking about it super publicly on here. So go over there and check me out. I have not done a work update in a bit, but by the time you guys see this video, I should have one up. there are things to talk about. So I will be posting one soon. I have this problem where I keep filming them and I just like, my mind changes about things and then I don't upload them. But I will be posting one soon. So yeah, check that out. Anyway, on that note, I want you guys to always remember and to never forget that you are beautiful and you are loved. Bye.